Alex and I are here at Barton's Cove on the Connecticut River, just above what was once called the Great Falls of the Connecticut River. And it's interesting because just behind us on that island, Alex, that's where the first bald eagle returned to Massachusetts. Yeah, back 30 years ago, that island was prohibited land. They had buoys preventing you from getting anywhere near it. And there were a breeding pair of bald eagles on that island. They had first come to Quabbin, where they could be protected real easily because much of Quabbin is off limits. But it was this island where they left Quabbin and they now integrated themselves into like the mainstream of Massachusetts, and it was felt they needed to be protected. Interestingly, now there's as many bald eagles, it seems like, in western Massachusetts as we have crows. And my brother, who's a big, the peeper, who's a big ornithologist, said that the largest concentration of breeding bald eagles in the United States, other than Alaska, is here on the Connecticut River, which is kind of cool. And here at Barton's Cove, we're looking at an area that eagles probably first came to for the same reason that the native people came here, because the Connecticut River goes over a massive waterfall just to our south, and you can see it's marked by the buoys behind us. And that's the Great Falls of the Connecticut. And the anadromous fish, like shad and salmon, that come up the river, those fish get really tired out going up the waterfalls and the rivulets. Native people built fish weirs here in order to take advantage of the situation. It's just on the other side of the river right now that we have what was the major village of Peskeoumpskutt. You can see it right there where that white house is sticking out. And it was there that in 1676, on May 19th, our friend William Turner made his appearance. Leaving his horses on the other side of the ridge, he crept forward with about 85 men in his trained band. And they form a cordon, and they marched from pretty much where you can see the gap in the mountains there, over to the gap in the mountains here, and they came down that hillside, and here along the river, and we're looking at a reservoir now. So the native people would have been underwater out in front of us, most likely. Their fish weirs, canoes on the banks of the river. They probably had wigwams set up. It's May, so that they've had a couple of months to recover from the winter, and they're really enjoying the opportunity to catch as many fish and eat as much as they possibly can after that starving time. And Turner and his men come out of the mist in the morning, and one of the native people sees him and yells, "Makwa," which means Mohawk in their language. And the panic ensues. The native people rush for their canoes. Many of them jump into the river without a canoe at all. Others jump into canoes and don't bring paddles, and they're swept over the Great Falls to our south. And you can imagine how awful that must have been. The casualty figures that you see are usually 500 to 700 native people killed. Turner and his men find 2 forges that were used to repair the locks of the guns that they had bought from the Dutch and from the English in years previous. They did fearsome damage to the native people here at Peskeoumpskutt, but the problem is Peskeoumpskutt isn't just here. There's several other fishing camps up and down the river, and Turner had basically stirred up a bee's nest. And while he and his men, they're excited with their victory and all that, they marched back to get on their horses, and when they did, they were swarmed by angry native braves. And before all was said and done, Turner and I believe it was like 35, 38 of his men are killed in a battle not far to our west. So this is Peskeoumpskutt at Turner's Falls, named for William Turner. And of course, we always talk about how, they're working on changing the names. And I had a guy say to me last week, they've got to rename it Great Falls. And I said, why not Peskeoumpskutt? And he told me because it was too hard to say, which, I don't know. Get used to it. We live in...
Oh, yeah, Massachusetts.
That's right. We had to learn how to not only say that, but spell it.
As I say, if you ever look at, like, foreigners trying to speak English, they'll ask, say Massachusetts, and they'll be like, oh.
What? Connecticut, right? We've got a lot of fun spellings due to the native people, and I'm actually glad. But like we were saying when we were driving up here, in a sense, the idea that you can change a name and wipe away the shame is kind of garbage. In fact, it's whitewashing something.
Yes, it is.
We are going to remove our guilt by a simple name change. I don't know. I don't know about that. I don't know if it works. I think about all the land. Think about that land back there. There's just so much of that is just sitting there. There's nothing being done with that land. Right? State forests, state parks. What about the native people? Does anybody ever think about returning some of that land, actually returning it to the native people? I'm not talking about where people are settled. I'm talking about this beautiful land, which is owned by somebody.
Oh, yeah.
Or by the state. You know what? Maybe it's time we thought a little bit deeper about the guilt and about the recompense. You know? I don't know. There's plenty of operational plans you could come up with that are better than a simple name change. You know, and once you change the name and think you got rid of the shame, you've still got the history to deal with.
Absolutely.
Unless you want to bury that too, which some of them do. So we are on the Connecticut River impoundment above what was once called the Great Falls and then became known as Turner's Falls. So this impoundment was created when they built paper mills at Turner's Falls. And the main Connecticut River is on the other side of this island/hill. And the falls are just beyond those barrels. And what we're going to do is we're going to give it a shot. Now this is known for its smallmouth and largemouth bass population as well as pike. But what's fascinating is we are literally fishing right now. We're on a battlefield because it was here to our right about where this marina is, and off toward the village that you see, you know, the homes on that point, that the native people called Peskeoumpskutt. Now we are really close to Deerfield, and the Deerfield native people were known as the Pocumtuck. So I'm sure that they called this area Peskeoumpskutt. It does have other terms that are associated with it. But the native people in 1676 April had collected here bands of Wampanoag and Narragansett, Pocumtuck, Nipmuk, Quabog, Nonotuck, Northampton, Agawam, all the tribal peoples that were at war with the English colonies gathered here, and this isn't the only place. Mount Wachusett is another gathering area that they were known to frequent, and there were other river sites, like on the Housatonic, like up at Tomhannock, that we don't really hear talked about much, but I'm certain that you had native people collected there as well. And what they were doing is they were trying to fill their bellies with shad and salmon and herring and alewives. Basically, they had been at war for a full year nearly, about 11 months. So we're fishing the Connecticut River here at Turner's Falls. It's called Barton's Cove if you're looking it up on a map. And, you know, it's a river. When you're fishing a river, there's certain baits that work. And I was just saying to my brother, one thing that is really good to remember when you're fishing a river is often to downsize. Downsizing is usually going to work for you. Now, also, we're fishing at an interesting time because the fish are getting on their beds. They're going to be getting ready to get on their beds. You're going to have some aggressive fish if they're not on their beds yet. Very clear water here, actually, shockingly clear water. I got me a second species. Oh, third species, largemouth, red-eye, and red-eared pumpkin seed. Or is it a shell cracker? Well, I think it might be a shell cracker. Oh, it's a largemouth. You got the correct species. Nice. One of the lures that I've used in rivers that I've done really well with over the years. Oh, he's on! Oh, he got it! The red-eared shellcracker. Oh, I just missed one out there. Wasn't a bad hit. Missed another one. What was that all about?
I was just pulling it really quickly and this thing went
Yeah, because they don't care. Look at you. Nails another largemouth.
Just trying to get it out of
Just trying to get it out of there.
stuff.
To get strikes from the bass, you know. Notice the change in the bottom in front of you. There's the guy put riprap. There's a bunch of riprap in front of us. And a lot of times the bottom change like that makes a lot of difference. He's got one. Oh, nice fish. Nice bass. Look at him go. Oh, that's a solid fish. Now, give yourself enough line to work with. Look at you. Get it out of the water with your thumb. Yeah. Hard thumb. There you go. Look at that belly. That fish is getting ready to bed. You can see where she was tailing the bottom. So you want to get her back in there. Yeah, beautiful fish. Yep, nice 2-pounder. Nicely done. Oh, another one right in the same place. Now, often what that is, you get multiple hits in the same place like I just did, is a fish reacting off a bed. And I'm not a fan of bed fishing, but I'm going to go back over the top and see if I can trigger another strike. Yeah, I think that's what we're talking about here. Oh, you see, you get a fish guarding its nest. And one time I was messing around with a fish on its bed, and I caught this fish like 5 times. And then I thought, what am I doing? I'm hurting this fish's chance at successfully reproducing, blah, blah, blah. But it was like that. You threw something near that bed, and the fish would come out, smallmouth bass would come out and get rid of whatever you threw. So it's not a sportsmanlike thing to do, I don't think. And I think it ought to be prohibited in bass tournaments. But those guys do whatever they want to do, and nobody ever stops them. I don't think bass guys ever think about conservation. I'm not saying all of them. I'm sure some of them think just like I do, but you can't do that. You can't, especially places where populations are stressed by invasive species. Like, they're killing the smallmouths up at Thousand Islands right now. They're catching huge smallmouths on the Great Lakes, right? But those gobies are in there, the round gobies, and you're pulling them off the beds, and that's what they love. They can't wait because of the clear water in the Great Lakes. They all go up there, they take their vacations, and they bed fish. But what they're doing is they're basically pounding year classes of bass by doing that, rather than letting the bass alone for a few weeks during the spawn. They're pounding them. And they take them off their beds, and they go weigh them in, and then they let them go. They go, I let them go. Now, how many of them lived? And how many of those babies actually were able to survive the onslaught of gobies? Did they get eaten before they even hatched? Because the bass will guard the beds. The big female comes in and lays, and then the male guards the nest. He's on again. He's just crushing it. He's got a pickerel. Or is it a pike? Let's check it. Chain pickerel. Quick ID. They got that black mask going over their eyes. You can make a quick ID on a pickerel pretty easy like that. I mean, we haven't seen anybody fish this entire bay. Like, why not? Like, they have bass tournaments, and they dump their bass over there at the public ramp, right? So, guess what? This is a good area to fish, isn't it? So, and there's gravel too, so like that's good. So let's throw a few casts in this area. Oh, it's beautiful here. Turner's Falls, Peskeoumpskutt. If you come up here, remember that name, Peskeoumpskutt, not hard. And I'm using a popper now. He's still got on that little ratty Rapala. He's catching all these. Oh, it's so awesome to watch a fish hit with a setting sun like that. So you can see from this distance, from where the marina is, over to the last house there, that area would be known as Peskeoumpskutt. And Turner had his horses, where you see that cell phone tower, right on the other side of that hill where the cell phone tower is, he keeps his horses. Now after the attack, he's basically stepped on a hornet's nest. He killed hundreds. I've seen as high as 700. Oh, there we go. Oh, I missed it. I've seen as high as 700, but I was recently reading the new National Park description of the battle, and they said 456 or something like that, which is an impossibly specific number to know, considering the story of the native people getting swept over the waterfall, right? How would you know, right? And after that attack, he's going to deal with 5 other native camps. 1 from up north, 2 from up north, and then 3 from just below the falls. And he has to get back to Northampton. And it'll be right about where the sun is setting. As he starts from where the cell phone tower is, moving behind that ridge, he's going to end up in a running battle. And along the way, I believe he loses 38 men. And one of the guys, Steve, that he loses, that actually they thought was dead but made it, so he's not going to be one of the 38 dead, but he's one of the wounded, is this guy named Bedurtha from West Springfield, who was in one of the trained bands. And I was giving a lecture down in Agawam, and one of the Bedurtha family, an elderly gentleman, told me what Paul Harvey would call the rest of the story. And he told me how his great-great-great-great-great-grandsire, or whatever he called him, had been shot through the leg and arm and was basically left for dead on the field. But Elijah Holyoke, right, had concealed him inside of a hollow log. The 2 of them hid in a hollow log or something like that. And they were able to get back 3 days later. They finally were able to get back to Northampton. But everyone thought they were dead. So it's weird how you'll meet someone who has an oral memory, from their family history. So the story was told and told and told again, and the oral history survives. Of course, be very, very quiet. We are hunting fish. My name is Elmer J. Fudd, millionaire. I own a mansion and a yacht. Be very, very quiet. So you can probably see swan right here. Well, if you look, there's 2 swan nests on this little island right there. And I don't know if you can see them very well on this camera, but there's 2 big old swan sitting on their nests, getting ready to create some ugly ducklings, as they say.
Cygnets.
They call them cygnets?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, that's what they are. Baby swan is a cygnet.
Huh. They get special treatment. Look at that swan right there against the sun. They get special treatment. They don't deserve it. They're Euro invaders. Hello, Mr. Swan. We are trying to be very, very quiet. Look at him. He's got the wings flared out like he's going to come after me.
See, there's a 3rd nest right there.
Oh, yeah.
And that's kind of what happened with them.
Stand, man. On. What do we got here? Oh, baby. Yes. Little largemouth on the grub. Did you hear about? Yes. Oh, look at you, little largemouth. On the Rapala or the Rapala. Yes. So from Turner's Falls, called by the Pocumtuck, Peskeoumpskutt. Takes a while to learn how to say that. We did a little bit of fishing today. We learned a little bit of history, talked about a little bit of history, observed the actual battle site and how it's changed in, almost 400 years now. And it's definitely cool to come here. You got a lot of opportunities to see great wildlife, coupled with history of the native people and the early colonists. And if you're into the industrial history, maybe that's next episode when we fish below the dam, because that's a piece of history unto itself. But the Turner's Falls boat ramp here is nice. It's called Barton's Cove boat ramp. It's big, a lot of parking. There's actually a Santa can that we noticed was particularly clean.
Very clean. Very.
The era of the dirty Santa can seems to be coming to an end.
I'm hoping so, Sam.
I don't know. I was getting used to it. The idea of going in a Santa can and actually, not gagging has been difficult for me to get through. But I'm overcoming.
And the fishing was okay.
Fishing was okay. Caught a lot of fish. A couple of decent ones. A lot of small ones. But that's okay. Again, they're on their beds. And, he got one that I know was getting ready to lay its eggs. Got it right back in the water.
Speaking of Santa can, I'm going to go check and see if it's still good.
He's making sure he's doing this for us, because that's the kind of guy he is. So yeah, it was a good time tonight here at Turner's Falls. We'll definitely be back. And my next plan up here is to fish below the dam, where the Deerfield River enters. And it's an interesting feature in Massachusetts geography.